resources has produced a lot of results. In fact, this is one of the big story how we maintain our macroeconomic stability during commodity boom. When price of oil going up, the energy price going up, we still maintain our external balance very well because the trade balance is actually positive. In fact, the current account deficit is actually current account surplus until last year, until the first quarter of this year. So value-added creation through the downstream sector of our mineral resources is one of the big strategies. But we don't want to stop there. What we want to do is making sure that the new sources of growth will be structural enough, i.e. something that is everlasting to the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. We're looking ahead to green industry because clearly the global climate change agenda, Indonesia is part of it. Indonesia is part of the top 10 biggest emitter, but in terms of per capita, we are number 24. But we know that we are part of this global agenda, and we are not shy from going ahead and build collaboration and cooperation with many countries. IMF says there are at least six commodities and 6 countries dominating certain mineral resources that are key to green transition for the next 10 to 15 years. We have nickel, we have cobalt, we have copper, we have bauxite, etc. So there are only limited number of countries. But the key question is, these countries cannot do economic transition, green transition by themselves. The common understanding of market mechanism still needs to work. The market mechanism that will enhance further trade collaboration and investment collaboration still going to be the best strategy. I.e., these countries who are rich in mineral resources cannot really do the transition by themselves. Indonesia, we are rich with copper and nickel. We cannot do the green industry all by ourselves. In fact, when we are building our solar panel factory, some of mineral resources from Indonesia involved, but we also involve investment from abroad, including the know-how of this development. So, i.e., the collaboration is still the key to the 10 to 5 to 15 to 20 years ahead. And the growth story of Indonesia, just as the growth story of the world, is going to be about rebuilding this collaboration again. So this is not an easy time, this is not an easy task. Indonesia, we're trying to take advantage of the fact that in our DNA, we are a non-aligned country. Since the Constitution, since the founding fathers, we are a non-aligned. During the time like this, it turns out this is actually the most beneficial position. We work with the US, we work with the Korean, we work with the Japanese, we work with the Chinese, we work with the Africans. We try to build the common narrative that we need to do this transition together. And we're not shy to say that Indonesia want to be part of the strategic global supply chain of this transition. So this is the aspiration of our economy. This is the way we look ahead for the next 5-10 years for us to be able to be part of this global transition of economy, but also at the same time we maintaining the economic growth of developing economies like Indonesia. Now, I know this is not going to be easy, and a lot of you, I see a lot of familiar faces who are and who have been in Indonesia running your business very strongly, and I thank you for that. And I can assure you that going ahead, whoever the leaders are going to be, the attitude should be the same. The attitude will be the same. That we are an open country, we would like to collaborate with all countries strategically, and we build our alliance together for our common prosperity. So I'm trying to make it brief because he said I need to be brief, but that is the message I would like to say on behalf of Ministry of Finance. Again, really sorry that the minister herself cannot be here. She wished that she should have been here to address you and to talk to you because all of you are very important to us and you've been very instrumental in supporting our economic growth. So going ahead, please work with us and let us know how we can help your business in Indonesia and let us know how we can grow together. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih banyak, Bapak Febrio. Thank you so much for highlighting your insights on the key aspects that shape Indonesia's economic landscape. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we navigate through the rich tapestry of discussions and topics here at the U.S.-Indonesia Investment Summit. So, on our next panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, we will explore the future landscape of Indonesia, be it on a global stage or here within the borders at home. So, for our next panel discussion, we're going to discuss an array of topics surrounding Indonesia's post-election future here in the world and here at home. So to guide us through this insightful panel discussion, please allow me to invite our wonderful moderator, a leader whose expertise and experience in the financial sector and world is truly commendable. Please allow me to invite to the stage the CEO of JP Morgan Indonesia, Mr. Yoshia Rally, to moderate this illuminating session. Mr. Rally, the time floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to invite the panelists, if you will, come to the stage, Pak Muhammad Lutfi, Ibu Satu, as well as the Bapak Phillips, if you don't mind. So we are honored to have our expert panelists with us today, and I was told by the committee that we gotta finish by 2:30. In about 20 minutes, simply because Anis will begin on time at about 3:25. So let's begin. This is the second panel of the summit, and the topic is on what is Indonesia's future post the election, and how the private sectors can help the support to boost the economy. That is the main topic of our discussion today. But before that, let me first introduce our panelists who are here today. And first we have Pak Muhammad Lutfi, the former Minister of Trade under the President of Jokowi administration in 2020. Pak Lutfi is also the Minister of Trade under the Baswedan administration in 2014. And before that, Pak Lutfi was the Indonesian ambassador to the United States. Welcome, Pak Lutfi. We have also have Ibu Satu Kahpunen, the country director of the World Bank, Indonesia and Timor-Leste. And before, you've been here from Feb of 2020. And before that, you were the World Bank country director for the Belarus, Ukraine, and Moldova. Welcome. And we also have Pak Phillips Formonte, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Social Science, Universitas Islam International Indonesia, and the Senior Fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. So, let us begin. You have about 5 minutes to share your views on the subject, and there'll be Q&A at the end that I will ask each one of you. Let's start with Pak Lutfi. Pak, what is Indonesia's future post the election, and what does it take of the private sectors to support the government to boost the economy? Time is yours.
So this 2024 will be our fourth Indonesia's directly elections. What had happened in the last 3? Basically, Indonesia is so blessed of the democracy because the democracy ensures that will be a credible government that create prosperity for the people. We can argue who's more right or wrong, but at the end of the day, this is our insurance that the people pick to whom that they're going to create prosperity. I was the witness for SPY for the last 10 years. I was the witness for Pajakowi for the last 10 years as well. So if you ask me what is Indonesia going to be, Indonesia in 2045 will be the 5th largest economy, will be $30,000 per capita, and with the trajectory of growth more than 5% counting from today. That is why I said Indonesia will need investment, Indonesia will need trade, Indonesia will need industrializations, Indonesia will have to have a secure food and health to ensure that golden generations will be the active participants for tomorrow. Am I optimistic about that? Damn right, I'm optimistic about that. And if you ask me, how do we do that? You, the business sector, will be our rockets to get there. Because if you look at how Indonesia is doing it, we are doing it, I think, very well. Maybe sounds very bad, or maybe sounds not as good in the international forum, because I've been asked, to speak why Indonesia look inward economically. We're not looking inward. We just make sure that Indonesia's interests serve first. That is what we're doing. Are we successful in that? Damn right, we are successful in that. I was the witness of it. In 2019, we closed our ore for nickel abroad. That next year, Indonesia's value added coming from nickel had gone up from $1 billion selling ore to $10 billion selling stainless steel. The year after the Chinese put a 20% safeguard on Indonesian stainless steel, our growth is 96%. The third year, our growth is up to $30 billion coming from that $1 billion nickel ore export. Are we doing well? Yes, we are doing well. Now, we are going to be the biggest EV battery producers in the world. We are fighting with the US. We are talking to the US to make sure our battery will be part of US EV vehicle. If we don't get it, we have to find another way of selling it. But of course, we would like to have a good engagement with the United States. So now, as a US business, I told John and I told Lynn that I was a former ambassador, so for the rest of my life, I will be the bridge between the two countries. So in fact, if you have problems or doing things like that, I'm officially retired. I don't think I'm going to join government anymore. Please come, just call me, and to make sure the live and the growth of Indonesia's economy will be there. So this is my preamble, and I'm sure Ibu Satu and Philip Hill will mention a lot of things. But if you ask me, are we on the right track? We are. Are we going in the economic insight? We're not. Sometimes, where we're doing it, the developing countries doing it, they call us a lot of names. Nationalizations, domestically oriented, whatever. But when the developed countries do it, they call it national security. We are doing our national security. We would like to see our interests first, but to create and to develop as Indonesia going to be industrialized will be our main interest. And yes, I am very optimistic about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lutfi. I mean, I hear a lot of points from you. We need investments, we need trade, we need industrialization, we need healthcare, business support is required for us to grow. The downstreaming works, our export value goes up. I have one question for one of the panelists after. Before that, I'll pass it to Pusat to share your view. Again, it's on what is Indonesia in the future, post-election, and what does it take for us to do more, and what business support is required to support that growth.
Thank you very much, and that's a very big question, but I'm also bullish on Indonesia. I have to say that publicly, so I'm not disagreeing with you. So Indonesia, I mean, as you already heard from Pak Febrio a moment ago, Indonesia has been a bright spot in the world in the past couple of years, in particular last year. We see basically Indonesia growing robustly, significantly higher than the world growth, significantly higher than the average growth in the region, East Asian Pacific region. But we are now seeing that the growth is actually starting to slow across the whole of East Asian Pacific region. All the leading indicators are now suggesting a slowdown. And the slowdown is going to be hardest in China. And what is most concerning, what we see, is that productivity growth is declining in all the countries. When productivity goes down, the potential growth goes down. So as a result of that, there is a need for significant structural reforms in all countries across the region, including in Indonesia. So Indonesia is doing well. It's despite all the global headwinds. It's growing solidly. You heard from Baswedan, they are projecting, Ministry of Finance projecting 5.1% growth in this calendar year. So does the World Bank. Actually, our projection is 5%. We hope to be surprised by 5%. But there are significant risks. If basically the sustained monetary tightening continues, we may see basically financial conditions continuing to deteriorate and access to finance tightening further. China's slowdown may affect the exports and investments, so we need to be prepared for that. But there's a big silver lining. Indonesia has excellent macroeconomic management. They manage the crisis extremely well. They have buffers. They have monetary and fiscal policy tools and space to use. So I'm expecting that Indonesia is going to feather the next couple of years well. We expect just a slight slowdown here. But for Indonesia to reach its target to become a high-income country by 2045, and even to retain these growth levels, 5% a year, requires doubling down on structural reforms. That basically needs to happen in order to counter the productivity slowdown and raise the potential growth. And in particular, if we want to be ambitious and become a high-income country, basically proceeding with structural reforms is imperative. And I can come back to what does that really mean. But it means basically, in particular, making sure that we have an enabling and open environment for the private sector to flourish. Because as you all know, private sector is the engine of growth. But I do want to conclude that I am very bullish. My colleagues are bullish on Indonesia. If Indonesia continues reform and growth, this is going to be one of the big leaders in the world over time.
Thank you, Satu. Well, I'm hearing bullish but from you. China slowdown, structural reforms, double down on structural reforms, and what it means really is get the privates to be able to do more. We need to be faster, we need to be on time, maybe. Significant risk is coming, but we're good in managing our macroeconomy. I'll come back. I got one question given the time for each one of our senior panelists here, but before that, I would like to hear Philip's view on our topic today. Silakan, Pak.
All right, thank you. I'll take a different style. Number one, I'm optimistic as well with Pak Lutfi, Menunggu satu. I was growing up living in the government, and I know how it feels to live under authoritarianism. And since 1998, I think we've learned now, especially given what happened in the past few days, we cannot take things for granted. Democracy can progress, but at the same time, democracy can regress as well. Now, talking about what has been happening in the past few days,
And I think it would lay some, some foundation for what we will see in the next few years. This is what I see. When we are talking about economic growth, business development, and we're talking about climate change, sustainable development, there's a portion of civil society and people that is, it has to be inclusive. And this is what concerned me the most in the past few months, that civic space is shrinking, and it will come at the cost of transparency or control of government, whoever become the president in 2024. But right now, we have a very strong government, which is good on some aspects. It is needed for business, for stability. We all want stability and so on. But it may cost us, and the new order government has taught us a lesson that emphasizing on economic growth without paying equal attention to the political rights, to the maintaining of institutions, and so on and so forth, it will come at one point when it would evaporate. All this legitimacy of economy, like what happened during the 1998, 1997, 1998 crisis. And I hope that we should not come to that point of time again, that we start to begin things from zero again. Number three, I'd like to highlight there that I think when it comes to democracy in Indonesia, what happened in the past few days, I think it's good. That is, now we become, we realize now that democracy, voting, election is not about having good versus bad people, but it's about choosing lesser evil. I think because everyone has their own weaknesses when it comes to policies, when it comes to position towards certain policies and so on and so forth. Now people should become more realistic and more rational. So what happened during the election in 2014, 2019, we become so much provoked by the elites, right? By the political actors. They use all stuff, political identities, or you are against us or with us and so on and so forth. Now people could say, well, I have my own position. Given what happened, everybody can say anything. But now I will judge you on your policies, and then Pak Jokowi has set the bar very high. That in terms of development, infrastructures, reform, bureaucratic reform, he set the bar so high. Now people could, actually exercise their voting rights in more rational way, and that I think is good news for Indonesia.
Thank you, Philip. I mean, his view is, democracy, transparency, political rights, constitutions, high bar by President Jokowi for the next president to defend and grow further. One question for me for each of the panelists here with us. 2024, the view is we're going to grow at 5%, while the world may grow at 2.9%. We've been growing for about 5% from the financial crisis time in '98, and we need to grow higher for us to reduce our unemployment. Now, my question is, and this is assuming the election is over, and whoever is there at the end, we all will support, and we all will work very hard for Indonesia, and I think we're all aligned. The question is this: what are the 2 points specifically it takes for Indonesia to grow higher than 5% for us to go back to 7% growth mark? For us to achieve the objective that we target by 2045 that Pak Lutfi said, that we all wanted to get there. So that is the question. We can start with Ibu Sati.
Thank you very much. I'm going to focus on one area that I think where Indonesia has left big bills on the sidewalk, and that's trade. Unfortunately, the Indonesia, the trade openness has significantly declined over the past 20 years. And the trade to GDP ratio in Indonesia now is lowest among East Asian and Pacific countries. And this is during the period when global trade has boomed. It has grown by 5% in real terms. And basically trade flows has increased 7%. That has not happened in Indonesia. And there is now a big opportunity for Indonesia. I mean, Indonesia already a couple of years ago proceeded with the omnibus law for job creation that liberalized private investment. It was a big step forward to boost competitiveness of Indonesia and basically allow investment and growth to pick up. And we have seen that foreign direct investment has increased as a result of that. But it will need to be complemented with trade reforms in order to have the desired full impact. And there is an opportune moment right now in the world for that, because the global trading system is in fact going through major structural change. Because labor-intensive manufacturing is moving away from China, the global value chains are changing, basically getting realigned after the pandemic, and basically the low carbon is changing also how the trade is flowing. So Indonesia would have opportunities there. And I'm going to mention 4. And this is in particular in terms of opening trade and picking the big bills from the sidewalk. One is to reduce through reforms the cost of manufacturing inputs, because nowadays no country in the world can export without importing. And that would require addressing sort of very costly non-tariff barriers that Indonesia has. These are increasing the cost to businesses actually significantly. I mean, our calculations show that they are increasing the cost by an average tariff amount of 30%. That's massive. And if those were relaxed, Indonesia, the GDP would grow by 10 percentage point and trade would grow by 5 percentage point over the medium term. That's big. So that's big for growth. The other area is services trade. Let me mention, I'm now going to give this speed up. Services trade and foreign direct investment go hand in hand. Liberalizing, reforming services trade further, which is right now one of the most restricted in the whole world, would bring a lot of FDI in. Thirdly, new trade agreements, deeper trade agreements, would open the door for Indonesia and Indonesian firms to do more business in the outside world. And lastly, take opportunity for the climate change and low carbon opportunities. Link trade and climate change together. And so I'm focusing on that. There are a lot of other areas, but this is an area where Indonesia could basically get significant investment and growth impacts pretty quickly.
Thank you, Satu. And very clear. So trade is key for us to do more, and there are 4 components within the trade. Thank you very much. Other thing?
I have 2 things. One, in order to catch up to be a high-income country in 2044, one is transfer of technology. Second is industrializations. That's the most important part for me. And in order to do this, reforms needs to be done. I totally agree with Ibu Satu that a lot of things can be done in Indonesia. The only problem is, sometimes world conduct does not necessarily right. One policy cannot fit all for every country. Okay? This is, I always assume, the analogy of an airplane when you board an airplane. Put your mask first, then help the people to put the mask after you. Because you need to survive first in order to have other people survive with you. Okay? So, what we can do here, the industrializations is part of the most important part. And I come, the infrastructure has been built in the country. It's amazing. I've been traveling to East Java, Central Java, all these roads has been put up. The last time we did that was 350 years ago when the Governor General of the Dutch colony, what happened in 350 years ago. Okay? So now, what do we need to do? First, think about the country first. You know, if you look at the GDP, the contributions of trade and export and services and goods and services, we are at 25%. We need to be at 47 to 50% in order to be a high income country. But the problem is, what do we sell? 10 years ago, we still sell raw materials worth nothing, you know. But we need to stop, and sometimes we need to put a barrier in order for us to have mature of these things first. So, guys, there is a old saying in West Sumatra where my father came from. You cannot walk in the middle while there is only two of you. Okay? You cannot want to be outside when you're locked in. You know, and then you cannot be on top when you're being pressed in. Meaning that, you know, we have to do things first to survive, then do other things. Not to say that we don't have to do reform. Reform is very important. But Ibu Satu, I came in 2004 when Indonesian economy just recovered from the financial crisis in 1998. We listened too much from IMF. You know, we suffered the most. From $463 in 1998 to be $1,000 in 2004. Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono tripled that GDP, almost quadrupled that GDP to 3,750. Today, we are at 5,000. Before 2030, we need to double that in order to be in the track for a high-income country. Can Indonesia do it? We can. Can we do it ourselves? Yes, we can. So how to do it? Let's Indonesia do the value chain the Indonesian way. And this is the right way to preserve the democracy, to ensure the prosperity for other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Lutfi. So technology is key, industrialization is very important for us to do more. And most importantly, we gotta put our mask first before we put the mask to other people. So we'll remember that. We gotta do it first for ourselves. Very clear. We need to get the industrialization done, and we need to do it timely. And we like to joke in banking that we like the way the Chinese do it because it's fast, and they don't like to do the financing at the project level, but at the corporate level because it's faster. We got to keep up with them as well, but we wanted to see their compliance to the standards as well. So the Western got to come halfway to do it faster, and the Chinese got to do it halfway for them to meet the standards at the same time. That way, we all can move faster and not be late. Thank you. Pak Phillips.
I think two things. Number one, structural reform must continue. Pak Jokowi did that with the omnibus law. It's structural and it's needed. And then the other area of structural reform might be, of course, bureaucracy, with the overlapping rules, bylaws across the country that hinder economic growth. So alleviating the distortion to the economy, I think, would be one of the requirements for us to continue to grow. And secondly, I think it's political stability. And by political stability, I mean by the Indonesian experience, somehow our elites are stable. Our political parties, regardless of what they're saying in the elections, how they are fighting the election, but in the end, we've been blessed in Indonesia that our leaders would come to terms at the end of each election time. And then I don't know whether this is good or bad in terms of democracy, but somehow it reduces tensions and then create more understanding about the leaders. What we want to see, of course, this is to be more institutionalized, that political stability is institutionalized through democratic means. And our leaders, I think, learning, and voters as well, people like us, the business community and so on, we learn that we should not you know, being brought down by election campaigns and so on. Because in the end, as Pak Febrio earlier said, you know, and then I think I heard some of the statements as well, that it is eventually leaders are constrained, their options are limited, and they are faced with similar challenges. Right now, global challenges are the same: climate change, post-pandemic, geopolitical war, and war in other parts of the world. So they are limited in options, and then I think they will behave the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Felix. Omnibus Bill must work. It was designed for us to move faster, for investment to come. The China Plus One somewhat come here, but mostly we're in Vietnam and Thailand. So we got to make it work. The rules, politics must not on the way of the business. Well, look, in our view, in banking, whoever is there at the end are going to continue to deliver for the country simply because we've been trying so hard and for too long. It is only the style that is different. One is more of a planner than doer, and at the end they will achieve the same, but it's only speed. I think our time is up. We appreciate your views, and it brings us a new perspective and for us to use to contribute to the growth of Indonesia, and we thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bapak Yusril Ali, for wonderfully moderating the session. And to capture this great moment, let's have a group photo together. I'd like to welcome our moderator and all of our speakers to please stand in the center of the stage to capture this great moment. Kami persilakan kepada teman-teman fotografer untuk mengabadikan momen ini. Yes, I'd like to welcome everyone to please stand in the center of the stage to capture this great moment. Kami persilakan kepada teman-teman fotografer untuk mengabadikan momen ini. And we'd like to sincerely thank all of our speakers for extending their great knowledge and expertise with all of us, and our moderator for illuminating this very productive session on Indonesia's post-election future in the world and at home. Once again, let us give them a big round of applause. Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we wait for the arrival of the former governor of Jakarta and 2024's presidential candidate, His Excellency Bapak Anies Baswedan, I kindly ask you to please... Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome